Just follow the money. What's going on, y'all? I'm Carl.
I'm Jonathan.
And this is Dilly.
Dilly explores transactions, structures, and vehicles that help people change markets and build things that we never thought possible. We talk about the plays inside the deal, the people who made the deal, and the context to take what works and apply it to the situation you may be in or what you might be trying to figure out in the market right now. Carl, what are we looking at today?
So this is part one of a 3-part series where we cover a sale, a purchase, and an acquisition, all surrounded around Jay-Z. So part one, we're going to talk about Rocawear.
What part of Rocawear?
We're going to talk about the sale of Rocawear, or the whole of Rocawear, right? We're going to run the story all the way up to the sale of Rocawear. And essentially there's a lesson to pick up in here. But first thing we want to really think about is how did Jay-Z sell Rocawear for $204 million?
Heard you.
And he did it in a 3-step process, at least the way we analyzed it. Step 1, you got to have a brand or a rep. Step 2, you got to find your plugs. And step 3, you got to make yourself attractive to a buyer.
Copy. All right. The first thing first, we got to talk about ownership. The streets have a lot of mythology. People say a lot of things. Who owned Rocawear?
Yo, this is probably the craziest part of the Dilly, right? Because, like, you know, when I first got put on to Rocawear, I thought this was a Jay-Z, Dame, Biggs type situation. And when you really start to dive into the docs, you start to realize, oh, shit, like, Jay owns 25% of Rocawear. Dame owns 25% of Rocawear. And these two, like, Russian cats named Alex Bizet and Norton Share own the other 50%. Like, who the fuck are these guys? What the hell?
No
like,
idea.
bro.
It's tough.
Bro, we might have to go into the story a bit.
All right. So,
like, I'm talking about, we got to go all the way back to Jones Street.
All right. So in 1999, Jay-Z tells MTV that Rocawear started in the office downtown, using secondhand sewing machines, stitching things together. After that, Russell Simmons puts them on to the two dudes that Carl just mentioned, Alex and Norton. So this is 1999. So what that means is in Jay's career, we are a couple years removed from his breakout album, Reasonable Doubt, which is obviously a classic. We know it. We understand what was said on that album and who Jay was leading into this process. But coming in 1999, Jay's been touring. He's been moving around the streets, and he's recognized that he's actually making these other fashion brands essentially pop every show. He's iceberged out, but it's not him.
Facts.
He's not in the ownership. And so he figures out, why don't we make our own stuff since we make the music? Why can't we make the clothes too? Right?
Facts.
So, 1999. 01, operations are growing. It's one of the fastest new clothing brands anywhere. How do we know that to be true, Carl?
1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4, 18 months, 80 million more. I can't believe
it's a lot of connection,
I can't believe he was talking so much shit on that track like that, bro. And it's like,
you don't know
and
is an actual profit loss statement
Yo.
for Rocawear clothing.
Yo, bro, it makes me crazy because you thinking like he said, you ever thought Hov would sell clothing? Not in his lifetime. Wasn't in my right mind. And like, you not really realizing that, like, you know, some rappers like line they rhymes. But like when you look at the Dilly, when you look at the docs, it's like, damn, bro, he really was bringing in his bread. We got so many sources quoting Rocawear at 80 million in sales, bro. Like, he really never lied.
It's a financial statement. Jay said a financial statement you don't know, and he made it clear that he actually was cornering the market with clothing. It's different.
And it's interesting because, you know, we do got to spin it back just a little bit because, like, they really was on Jones Street in the beginning, like, sewing logos to shirts. And Russell Simmons jumps in. He already got Fat Farm established. He's like, look, like, I see what y'all trying to do, but like, this ain't gonna cut it. and puts them on to these plugs. Now these plugs, did they help Russ jump Fat Farm off the ground? Or actually no, I don't think it was them, right? It was the Bugle Boy cat.
It was the Bugle Boy.
It's crazy. So a lot of y'all, if y'all know Bugle Boy, some of y'all know Bugle Boy, some of y'all don't. Like a lot of the OGs know about Bugle Boy, but Bugle Boy was like one of the hugest, like one of the biggest brands in the 80s. They sold them parachute pants. And their area of focus was young men.
It's denim. They were active in the denim game.
And like hip hop got them off the ground crazy. Like you seen Slick Rick rocking it. It was in the Karate Kid.
Yeah. If you've seen the Karate Kid, remember Johnny? He's fighting on the beach in those pants. Those are Bugle Boy pants.
Yeah.
Those wild, shiny joints where Johnny puts that man on his back and talks crazy to him in front of his girl. Those are Bugle Boy pants.
Look, you started this. All I wanted to do was talk to you.
And Russell Simmons and the two Russian cats that jump in on Rocawear actually connect him to the cat that made the Bugle Boy joint.
Named Vincent Nesi.
And he has his group, Nesi Apparel Group, and his focus here. He's like, yo, I'm about to run it up again. I'm done with Bugle Boy, but I'm about to run it up again with this rap shit since y'all out here really influencing cats. So he jumps in with a deal with Jay, and what he does is Jay actually just designs clothes.
Yeah.
Jay Dame, like Rocawear is not a brand, like Rocawear is not a brand without manufacturing and distribution. So essentially these cats were on Jones Street designing what you were wearing. And then they go on a deal with Nesi Apparel Group, this Bugle Boy cat who says, don't worry, I'm going to handle all the manufacturing and distribution. So it's incredible to actually see what you could do with intellectual property. So like all my designer cats out there, like that are out here designing clothes, thinking that they gotta then go to the fashion district, then design the clothes, then put out 200 items, but it might cost you $100,000 to pull it out. Like actually, if you got the brand rep, right, you could actually design clothing, then just go into deals with other cats who are gonna handle the rest.
That's the question about ownership, right? Because Jay has ownership at this point. Rocawear is owned, but there's different forms. And so the choice to not own the entirety of the supply chain gave Jay leverage to focus on where he was strongest and actually find the people that had the relationships with the factories, because he's actually offshore with a lot of this production. And so to do that offshore work, that means you need to be connected to warehouses, you need to be connected with shippers, and those relationships for anyone in manufacturing takes time. You don't just manufacture, you can't just finesse those, especially given the moment in time and the technological stack that we have now wasn't what it was then. And so you actually needed people, you still do, but you need more from those people to actually connect you and build that. And so it's an interesting choice to operationalize a thing, build it, but then recognize where that last 15% of time and effort goes into. And that's why Vincent Nesi having those relationships and Alex and Norton on the ownership side allowed them to grow the way they did and allowed them to focus on what they had, because at this point Jay and Dame especially are tastemakers. They are figuring out what the culture wants, what people need, and how to engage with it and execute on it, right? And so we speed up to 2004, right? And so Vincent Nesi Apparel Group rolls off as on the distribution side. He says, "Hey, I'm good. It's been a great run. I'm good. I'm chilling. I'm gonna go into some other things." And he actually goes and works with some other rappers that you're probably familiar with, but we'll deal with that another time. In the interim, though, Jay and Rocawear hook up with Signature Apparel Group in a licensing deal.
Yeah, which
for
essentially
the juniors line.
Right, which essentially just replaces Nesi. And now what we should do is kind of, if we can, we should go into how these licensing deals work.
Okay.
So like essentially when you own the intellectual property, when you own the design of a clothing, like you have the option to license out your clothing to someone else, right? But the way these cats were moving were, they was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna license out my clothes, and since I got the popularity, I'm gonna also charge you advertising fees because I'm gonna be wearing the clothes I licensed to you. And then I'm also going to take a percentage of your sales, since that advertising fee also moved to converting sales.
Which is a royalty.
So
I'm getting paid to make it, paid to wear it, and paid to advertise it. In my own video where I'm making money off the music I just made.
Exactly.
So I own all of it.
Like, this is
a 360 deal.
A 360 deal with clothes on.
All the way around. All the way around.
And like, it's like when people think about ownership, like people don't think about the power of IP, right? Because a lot of folks, what they'll do is they'll create stuff and they'll just put it out there like for the love. But like, there's so much power in that. Like, if you are a stylist, or if you are a designer, and you design things, like, these are all the different ways that you can actually monetize your design without actually having to take the time to physically create the item. Think about it this way. Dame, they were designing clothes. They shipped it off to someone else to make, got it in the mail, put it on, got paid for putting it on. Got paid for selling it.
It's pretty elite.
It's pretty elite, bro. It's pretty elite. And then, mind you, this deal size was for the boys, for the juniors line. So juniors line went from 9 years old to about 18, 19. Right. Then there was the men's line, right, which was probably a completely different deal. Yep. But the juniors line was where it was really getting bread, because booming. Obviously hip hop is a young man's game. It's a young man's sport. So young cats are buying those clothes.
And that deal was exclusively for the juniors line. So to be clear, they're still selling men's, they're still selling women's, and they're still selling generalized Rocawear clothing. Yeah. So the deal we're talking about is specific to the juniors line, and it is bringing in 2004. You're talking about 30 million. In the partnership, Signature was seeing up to 80 million in sales by 2007.
Oh my God!
Just on juniors. That's not a combined revenue number. That is exclusively the small aisle rack you walked into Bloomingdale's and bought your niece for Christmas. Yep. They were making almost $100 million off that alone.
Game changer.
It's different. Which is how you get a combined sales number by 2007 of $700 million in sales.
And these guys, and Jay and Dame, well, this is mostly Dame's op. We gotta give him his flowers real quick, because Dame really had this vision for Rocawear where it was a very it was a luxury item. This man really wanted to turn Rocawear into Louis Vuitton. He really had commercials with Kevin Bacon and Naomi Campbell.
This man had tigers in the club drinking out of baby bottles. This is nothing. It's nothing to joke. This is iconic. These are print ads. They were running billboards that said, "We run the strip."
Yeah, they really had Jay with 2 models in front of a private jet in the forest. Fire, dog.
They had Derek Luke in a private jet, just looking at the camera, not smiling, no blinking.
And then, mind you, on top of this, these cats got the Batman Beyond apparel.
That's true.
The DC Comics
That's a Warner Brothers deal.
The DC Comics.
So when Batman first launched, the first launch, they did a Rocawear deal for the apparel.
So for y'all out there really thinking about how far you can go with just design, you can really run it up. You know what I mean? And these opportunities still exist today, especially because there are people who aren't rappers but still have the ability to have significant reach and have, design talent. Right.
And an unprecedented impact on the culture, because also to be clear, we don't engage in Dame slander. We don't engage in who did what. We're not here for the beef. We here for the deal. Don't follow us, follow the money.
Facts.
And if you follow the money, you'll recognize that at the same time, Dame is out here actually engaging in signing new artists.
Yeah.
So Dame brings a renowned gentleman, a street poet by the name of Beanie Siegel in. Beanie Siegel is part of a large collective of people that you may know referred to as State Property. State Property has an iconic movie that comes out.
Facts.
Called State Property. That deal for the movie was done with Rockefeller Films and Miramax, a little production company you may or may not have heard of. Here's the interesting thing. We're all used to drops. We're used to Supreme drops, Nike drops, collab drops. We love that. Back then, it was, in my opinion, unprecedented to see a fashion line drop in a movie.
Yeah.
But that's what they did.
That's what they did.
And I don't know if y'all are from Philly or not. I'm sure a bunch of you are. You understand how iconic State Property merch is, respectfully. You understand what wearing an SP on your back meant.
Not gonna lie, bro. For this episode, I try to cop SP.
You can't.
I can't cop
Vintage.
Shit is sold out.
eBay.
everywhere,
It's
bro.
nasty work. Plus the supply chain is done. It would have
Yo.
taken months to get here.
If you watching this and you know Christmas coming,
Send Carl.
cop me some State Property.
Cash
please.
App Carl. If you got SP gear, just hit us in
Yo,
the DM.
just-
We
yo,
need it.
I will send you the address, bro.
Carl will pay you in ETH
Yo, send me the State Prop, bro.
on GP.
I need that. And it's crazy because Jay and Dane got these artists rocking these clothes that they also have in the distribution chain because State Property is owned by Rocawear. And these artists are signed to Rockefeller. And they're wearing the clothes, so they're advertising the clothes. And
Everywhere.
and State Property is all it's all fed into that licensing deal.
And they're on tour.
We mentioned earlier.
And they're in commercials. And to really wrap this up, because the point here is that this is vertical integration in practice.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you have the IP operating, you have it paying out, and then you continually add on to your product suite. And so the product suite in this context was both the artists and it was the merch that they were wearing.
Yeah.
And so what it allowed them to do is to make sure that any artist coming into the camp actually has a vehicle through which the branding and the lifestyle, because that's what they're talking about. They're talking about a lifestyle,
Right.
taste maker behavior.
Yeah.
And it's permeating the music. We hear this all the time. You can't listen to rap right now and not know what Amiri jeans are.
Facts.
You absolutely, even if you've never worn a pair, because rappers are talking about it. When young Chris says, I might powder blue Rocawear
White Nike, huh?
I think I might wife her. You know, powder blue Rocawear suit, white Nike.
that is a direct correlation because you can buy it. I had a Rocawear velour suit, and respectfully, you couldn't say anything to me.
Nah.
I'm
Absolutely
if I
not,
put
bro.
it on today, I'm still untouchable. No haircut. I am basically floating across Harlem. I'm impervious to anything.
Yo,
if I
yo.
put a velour suit on.
So is it velour suit over Nike Tech?
This is nasty work. I don't really respectfully right now, post 30, it might be.
It might be.
It might be. Off the vintage energy, if I show up to your kid's quinceañera in a velour suit, pour me a drink.
Facts.
That's who I am now.
Facts. And it's like, it's this element. Like, so two things kind of make me think, right? Because like I think about this structure, right? Rocawear doing these licensing deals, and then like, you know, during this time, Kanye West is coming up. So
fact.
Kanye West has the knowledge probably that we're spitting to y'all today, which is why he's on Sway in the morning talking about it ain't Ralph though, talking about the difficulty in creating his own fashion line, especially after he does the internship with Fendi. Like, he understands these operations before other folks, and like what we're seeing when we see a Rocawear shirt is we seeing the finished product, and we're seeing that this is Jay-Z's finished product, not really realizing what the back end looks like, how this thing was made, right? But Kanye knows what it how it's made, and we looked at him crazy for a while because we was out here yelling, "You ain't got the answers, Sway."
Why is it that you need these people? It's like you said, you don't need anybody to do these things. You don't need Adidas if you want to do a new shoe. Why?
Because you need proper production to bring some of that certain value. I mean, the thing is, put it like this. In order to get, like, if I want to get this Japanese level thermal, right, at a better price if I'm starting small, I'm not going to be able to get the best price, and I'm going to be losing money to the point where I can't afford it.
What led to that was Sway was like, well, I got a T-shirt line. And Kanye was like, yo, like, you really don't understand what's going on back here.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not your fault.
Yeah.
Because we not just making T-shirts.
Yeah.
Like, we really going all the way in.
Yeah.
And Jay and Dame perfected that really early in this rap shit. And then so now the way I think about it is like, yo, why would, like, yeah, I understand why Iconix would be interested, but at the same time, it's like, why Iconix? That's the real question, right? Like, why Iconix out of any other company? Because Gap could have jumped in and all these other cats. So, like, what made Iconix the company that they decided that they would sell the entire operation to?
All right, so to answer that, we got to talk about Iconix as a company, and then we'll talk about Iconix as the buyer. So as a company, Iconix was founded in 1993 as Candies, which is a women brands that did shoes and clothing. You might have seen it in a mall. It was usually sort of next to kind of, you'd find a jewelry shop, something like that. So your typical kind of women's wear clothing store. Their core business was licensing brands in footwear, apparel, and accessories.
So they're already in this business.
They're actively built in this business, and they're started as that business. So they have a core capacity, and they did a really strong campaign of acquisition. So they line up businesses to buy in categories with the margins that are really high. So things you can sell and things that season after season people buy or may need to re-up on, right?
So they Rocawear, but like mad Rocawear.
Facts. They also, if we go back to earlier, right, we talked about what it means to license. So Iconix is a license holder for Marc Ecko, Academics, Starter, Ed Hardy, Pony, and a bunch of other brands you may know or not know. We want to give you a list of ones you've probably seen, maybe even worn, or used to wear, or have in your closet that you haven't donated yet because, like, nostalgia.
So essentially, Iconix does a bazillion Rocawear moves. So the way Rocawear was licensing it to other companies like Signature Apparel or Nesi, right? They're like, yo, I got 20 brands and I'm doing licensing deals with each brand. Right. Yo.
So they built an actual conglomerate of brands that had relevance in culture. Marc Ecko, relevant. Starter jackets, relevant.
So they focused on hip hop.
Relevant. Things that people were wearing, they had the license to, which meant no one needed to know who they were.
Right.
All you needed to do was keep buying.
Facts.
So remember, the things worth money, you don't necessarily know exist. What you know exists is the product they actually sold you. And what you continually buy because you like it. You feel good in it, so that's an aspirational wear, or it's accessible. Either way, you don't need to know who holds the license. You're not worried about the license. It's drip or drown.
And the license really is just logo, designs, IP. It's the things that you create that you own, which is powerful because, like, you know, we already knew it was powerful from the perspective of Jay and Dame and the Russian cats running Rocawear. But then now it gets even crazier because it's like, yo, imagine if you had a crazy just design house and you designed a bunch of different brands and you never made no clothes, but you just designed a bunch of different clothes and say, all right, cool. So now I'm going to license all these out to all these different type of cats. That is Iconix, which is why Rocawear was important.
And if you think about what licensing means, it means you get to focus on the creative design and operation and leave the actual manufacturing to people that have paid to finance it. So if you really think about people's goal for freedom, things that pay yourself, if you have IP that people desire, that kind of deal might afford you a different kind of freedom. because you might just actually want to make clothing. You might not want to run the business. You might have built the business to the point it can be sold, which gives you liquidity, money, cash, and it gives you a different kind of opportunity to survey the landscape. Maybe you want to do something else. Maybe you want to make a different type of clothing, but you want to be rewarded for your hard work in the marketplace. Yeah. So Iconix is standing around looking at the marketplace, trying to figure out who they want to buy and who would be a good addition to their portfolio. Because Iconix doesn't think about individual brands. They think about brands that don't cannibalize each other. What I mean is they don't eat into each other's core market demographic. They expand it. So no one's concerned about who actually owns the license to Marc Ecko and Rocawear. They're concerned about if they have Marc Ecko and Rocawear in their closet. Right. So I'm going to buy what I'm going to buy. Right. And Iconix is like, buy everything.
Buy it all because I own it all.
Buy it all.
Because I own it all.
I own it. They own London Fog too. Sorry. Quick segue. London Fog.
They really own London Fog,
It's owned by Iconix. We found it. We didn't know, but like, you're involved.
It's interesting because like when we were doing a Dilly, like I had to really think about context too. Like this is like Iconix is going on this buying spree from 93, building up this business, but like when this Rocawear shit is really taking off, we're talking about 03, 04, 05, 06. Yep. They buy Rocawear in 07, right? Like this is the height of like balling season. We talking about everybody had a crib, they was flipping cribs, everybody was a real estate flipper.
Facts.
We're talking about markets were gangbusters, liquidity was everywhere. Like Iconix's prime broker was Lehman Brothers. Like it was Lehman Brothers.
R.I.P.
Like that's interesting because like when you think about the purchase, right? So Iconix gets the money that they need to purchase Rocawear from Lehman Brothers.
Of course.
And what's crazy is the deal is in all cash.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they give them $35 million in stock options if they hit certain performance metrics.
Of course.
Post the purchase.
Of course.
And then what makes things even interesting is they go and cop more. And Jay-Z says, I want in too. So they go in a joint venture deal with Jay to buy Artful Dodger.
Right.
And we have to really think about the product line, right? Because the product line is interesting, like all the different types of buyers. So like we're talking about 07 and 07, you have cats that's still a Rocawear, but Jay-Z as an artist is like maturing. So he's not really rocking Rocawear like he used to.
No.
Even though it's still like synonymous with him.
He told y'all no more. He said it's button up season.
It's button up season,
Relax.
right? So you got that, but like Artful Dodger is like a more premium type of brand.
Yeah. Somebody
who wants to dress a bit more premium. And the pricing is also premium. So Jay goes, yo, I'm gonna get the cats that still want to rock Rocawear.
Yep.
And I'm gonna get the cats who want to wear a bit nicer clothing, but still street. You know what I'm saying? This is like early in the street where we got Bathing Ape popping up, really getting popular. We got BBC popping up, really getting popular. You got Gino Green. You know what I'm saying? All the nines on your shirt. Like, you know what I'm saying? So you got all of that happening all at the same time. And Artful Dodger is making waves. They cop out Artful Dodger. Together through this joint venture called Scion LLC. So all of that is happening, and that deal was for $15 million, by the way.
Right.
So like all of that is happening at the same time, and this is the crescendo. This is 2007, and what happens in 08? Well,
the market
dies.
Apple shares are just getting hammered this morning.
We're down by between 3 and 4.5% generally across these markets. Let's talk about the speed with which we are watching this market deteriorate. We're red everywhere, essentially, down by 4-5%.
We're down over 16%. Dow at the same time has fallen about 18%.
The stock market is now down 21%.
Because we're now down 43%.
What in the world is happening on Wall Street?
2-year no yields went from 190 to 166 in the blink of an eye.
On the NASDAQ, everything and more has been completely wiped out.
It was the worst day on Wall Street since the crash of 1987.
Well, damn near dies. Life support.
And you gotta. It's also important to remember here that as a purchase, as an acquisition, Rocawear has a lot of things that make it seem at this time to be an incredibly smart purchase, right? You got an asset with massive growth. Rocawear had $700 million in annual sales at the time of acquisition. $700 million in sales. Huge. Coming from Jones Street with second-hand sewing machines. I think
Never forget where we started.
We hear numbers really frequently now in the culture. We have $1 billion valuation. Somebody got cashed out. Somebody just got a big 8-figure Netflix deal check. Somebody's got an overall. This is a different time. This is a time when we are not seeing kind of streetwear have its heyday.
Yeah.
The way we see it now, the way it's secondary to go stand in line for a Supreme drop or pay $300 for a brick.
Yeah.
A physical brick.
Yeah.
This is different. This is bet it all. We believe in it and we want to be tastemakers, and we really made it cool to show up and communicate in a way that felt authentic and real to us. To make $700 million
at that time,
selling this, having massive distribution, being in Paris, having runway shows, having billboards, having artists, having an actual grip, a firm grip on the culture. Why wouldn't you buy this?
Right.
Well, your investors love it.
This is the big bet.
You're on an investor call like Jay-Z's involved, and everyone's like, I know who that is. This is exciting. Run it. Okay.
Yeah. And it's like, if you're Iconix, you're betting the house on this one.
Have to.
Because, like, you're thinking about the growth trajectory, right? Like, you're like, wow, like, if it's 07 and we hitting these numbers, the lifespan of a brand in its own right, you know, especially the way it moves into the market, you're like, wow, this has long-term effects. Like, we're looking at maybe $1 billion, maybe 1.5, and we still got the other products in the product suite. So, like, you're like, yeah, let's bet the house on this one. $204 million. Here, Jay. And Jay walks out with $102 million cash by himself, because obviously he bought Dame out a few years earlier when when Rockefeller broke up.
Right.
And he became president of Def Jam. So Jay walks out with $100 million. The Russians walk out with $100 million. Iconix got it. Jay drops $15 million on Artful Dodger on a split with Iconix.
Yep.
08 happens.
Yep.
Jay's flush with cash.
In a recession.
Where
cash is in fact king. So he sees $100 million up. Iconix feels great because you got built-in distribution and you've got the best spokesperson in the world talking about what just happened. It's exciting. Jay's the president of a preeminent music label.
Yeah.
So you just sold to a businessman. You are involved in the culture in a way. You've got a market-leading brand with legacy, with IP that extends back into the late 90s, early 2000s, hit records. You have a elevated brand presence, and you're moving units without you. They were moving units before you showed up.
Yeah.
That's the best kind of business.
Yeah.
Oh, you have cash flow?
Yeah.
Why not?
And y'all got repeats? Y'all got repeat customers?
And your customers aged with you?
Yeah.
Your customers got older?
Very different.
So now you're buying Rocawear for your kids?
Very different.
You're dressing your babies? You're matching? You got the weeks on? Your whole family's in Rocawear? You're at the quinceañera just two-stepping? Yeah. It's buy my business, bro.
Facts.
Pull up.
Facts. And it's weird because, like, you know, I feel like it's the perfect purchase, but the wrong time. The wrong time, because it gets so nasty.
It's not good.
It gets so nasty after.
It's not good.
So, like, obviously, Jay, especially after he sells, he's completely moved on. Jay's style completely changes. Jay wants to be looked at as a supreme businessman.
Yep.
He got none of, $35 million in performance, whatever, stock options, I don't care. I already got the $100 million. Right now, I'm focused. I just got out my Def Jam.
I just bought out my last album.
I
start Rock Nation in 09.
Like I'm
free and clear.
moving different.
I'm focused.
I'm moving different. I'm moving different. I got my own label now. I got my deal. It's lit.
I'm out here.
And then what happens to Iconix is crazy because the Signature Apparel, who was doing numbers,
license holder for juniors,
Rocawear brand. These cats end up fucking up real bad. They end up not being able to sell as much clothes, so they owe money to their manufacturers,
who actually fronted them money. So in the supply chain, their manufacturers would actually give them bread on credit. So they say, hey, here's the money.
It's either bread or work.
So
on credit,
they do work
too.
for hire on credit. Here's the money. We know you're good for it because the units will come back. They weren't good for it. So they are actually in the hole to their manufacturers.
Then they owe distro cats on top of that, and they owed Iconix. So what do they do in 2009? They declare bankruptcy.
It's not good.
It gets nasty.
It's not good. Carl's a lawyer. It's not good.
It gets very bad.
It's not good. It's not good.
Chapter 7 bankruptcy, for those who are not familiar, is liquidation, bro. You have to liquidate all of the assets that you have. And what's crazy is they got into forced bankruptcy. They didn't declare by themselves.
No.
The people they owed
declared,
went to the courts and said, yo, they bankrupt, bro. They bankrupt.
Yep.
I don't know what to say. They can't pay their bills no more.
Nope.
So make them pay right now. Make them pay right now.
Because we owed the money. So we need the money back.
Because Iconix, at that time, their prime broker is gone. So they don't have access to credit.
Yep.
Because Lehman Brothers collapsed. Remember? Remember we told you that that's the cats that financed the purchase of Rocawear, their prime broker, gone, kaput, off of the mortgage-backed securities. So we got that mess. So they don't have the same access to credit. Also, on top of that, we are in the middle of a financial crisis. So no one is giving up credit. So Iconix is like, everybody got to give me my bread right now because we got to keep our operations going. So if you owe me, I want my money now.
Today.
Period.
Today. This bankruptcy, just for context, finally gets settled out in New York State Court in 2017.
Oh, not federal bankruptcy. Federal, yeah.
Federal bankruptcy, 2017. Settled out. Iconix, because of the deal terms, ends up suing Jay. Because they felt like they got
you finesse me
the wrong actual numbers on the deal. But by this point, we well and gone. This is a different beast we're talking about now. So Jay settles that. It's a light 15 million. No harm, no foul. Be good. But it's over for that. But that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is that leverage is in the details.
Facts.
Jay knew what he had, and he sold at the right time and actually found a way to get liquidity, walking into one of the world's most frightening financial moments we've ever experienced.
Yeah.
And turned it into his advantage, which he is currently still reaping the benefits of.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Actively.
Oh, yeah.
And will continue to.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
From Jones Street.
Sewing together logos on shirts, rocking them in the club.
On tour.
There was an MTV interview before Rocawear was really out. There was an MTV interview with Jay, and he was wearing it, and they were like, "Oh, is that Rocawear is gonna come out? Like, we see you got the big R on your joint. That's a Rocawear." And he was like, "Yeah, it's gonna come out in a little bit." You know how Jay was talking real smooth back then. Right. Yeah, you know, we got something in the works. We got something coming out. And it's from that to 200 million.
Outright.
100 million for him, 100 million for the Russians. And, you know, we gonna have footnotes podcasts out. And we gonna really go into the story of these two Russians. Because these two Russians, the way they move after that is actually interesting and still very relevant today.
Of course.
Still very relevant.
Of course.
But really what we want to cover at the end is, in conclusion, we really want y'all to understand these lessons, right? So, step one, if you're gonna go into this space, you want to really build a strong brand rep. Jay built a strong brand rep as an artist. He came out in what, 94, 96? Reasonable Doubt came out in 96.
96.
Came out in 96. Built a name for himself. The name was obviously superior artist, great artist, but really what he stood for was for independence, was for freedom, was for ownership. From jump, he was one of the first rappers to be talking about, because I want to own my masters. And attracting yourself to, what he did was he made himself a winner publicly, and an independent winner, right? Built his brand name, built his rap. Realized, I got an audience that will rock with me and will wear my clothing. Tried to do this deal with Iceberg, y'all should, do some deals with us. Iceberg said, nah, shut up, keep wearing my shit.
And I know I was selling a lot of clothing for these companies. And I would go to them like, we should work out a deal. I think I'm affecting your business a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you should work with me. We could work together, do some ads and things like that. And they was turning me away. I don't think they understood the amount of clothing I was moving for them. You know what I'm saying? And I wasn't doing it. I was just doing it to paint a picture. But at the same time, it was economical for them. And, they wasn't compensating me for it at all.
Said, all right, cool, we gonna make our own shit then. Right? Just like I couldn't get signed. All right, I couldn't get signed for this clothing joint. Finna make my own clothing joint, right?
Right.
Built his rep. Then what he did was he found his plugs. Used Russell Simmons, got him connected to the Russians, gave him 50% split on the equity. They understood the garment game. They was over in the garment district going crazy. They had the plugs overseas. They built with Nesi.
Yep.
Right? They built with Nesi, got the first deal. Right? Then those plugs, then when they got the money coming in off the $80 million Nesi deal, Nesi Apparel Group deal, they went and got the signature joint. After the signature joint, then they said, look, we got to really start setting up ourselves to be attractive to a buyer for a buyout. But the most important thing they did was find the person that would want to buy them. You got to look for your buyer. And Iconix was the perfect buyer for them because they were already in that space.
Right.
Copping.
Right.
Brands.
They knew what an attractive brand needed. They knew that brands build audiences around niches or focus areas. They had the focus. Everything in their portfolio still today has a core audience that invests in what they do. And they also had the built-in retail network ready to actually distribute that brand. So when if you ever watch Shark Tank, you'll see the sharks will be like, hey, I've got a relationship with X big box retailer. Mm-hmm. You should rock with me. That's why I want more equity. Mm-hmm. Iconix shows up and goes, we know you're in these retail relationships already, but we will put you in more, and we have global reach.
Right.
So just give us the whole thing. We're not trying to play halves. We want the whole thing. Here's the money for the whole thing. Enjoy yourself. And if it does well, here's even more for you. Mm-hmm. Right? Because we're in the public markets. We not a private. We are actually a publicly traded business.
Yeah.
That's who they sold to. We went bigger than that. We've been IPO. What's up? All the brands. That's how we got there, because our valuation was based on what we owned and what we had the licenses for.
Right.
So we do this all the time. Come home.
Come home.
You
Jay does
deserve
this repeatedly because he did this with Ace.
It's a fact.
He did this with Ace, where he said, all right, cool, I'm gonna make this a luxury brand, and I'm gonna shop this luxury brand to the particular brand that I want to rock with. Right? The particular buyer that looks for people who buy expensive spirits. Right? And who is that? It's LVMH. That's why they took a 50% stake. Up in Ace of Spades.
I
right?
need that.
So that's super important. And I think the last lesson, man, there's a lot of strength in your designs. There's a lot of strength in your IP. Really respect yourself. Put some respect on your name. If you are a superior designer, do not settle. Do not settle. Because if this episode tells you anything, it's how powerful your IP can be. Period. I don't know. You got any parting lessons?
I think it's interesting to kind of think about the journey here. Like we kind of sped this up. This is a specific moment in time in the business discography of Jay, and I think if days move slow, years move fast. And so if you think about from the entry point of 99 to 07, right, and the period of that's almost a decade. It's almost a decade of time to go from inception to the growing pains of a business relationship to an exit, to a liquidity event. And to get there requires obviously fortitude and hard work, but the vision of what Rocawear was obviously changed, it morphed, it became something more than what they thought. But the core message stuck with people.
Yeah.
Right? People don't necessarily buy things because other people do. They buy it off the emotion of what they feel. And so you have a favorite brand, you have a thing you like because of how it makes you feel, what it represents, and how it actually affects your environment. And I think for anyone making things or people that have a relationship to the art, it matters because that's what they're buying. Iconix had bought other brands before. That's not unique. What made Rocawear unique was what it meant.
Yeah.
And what it continued to mean and how it evolved as the ownership evolved, as more artists were there, as the industry changed, as they got into film, as they tried to make forays into tech, as they kind of tried things. Really, Rocawear was a brand that represented, I think, an edge case. They stood on the edge and they said, we're going to try it. That's how we got here. What made us what we are is actually the risk takers. It's a brand for risk takers.
Right.
Dame was a risk taker. Jay's a risk taker.
Yeah.
And so that embodiment, if you can find a way to actually personalize that, good dope sells itself.
Brand narrative.
That's it.
Yeah, brand narrative.
That's it.
All right, so that's it for episode 1 of Do Dilly. And remember, don't follow me. Don't follow John.
Nah.
Don't follow us. Just follow the money.